Hello, we're going to continue the afternoon testimony in Massachusetts versus Karen Reed, trial day 1. So let's begin.
All right. I think we're going to go to side.
You are unmuted.
I was told council wanted to see me about scheduling.
Your Honor, my apologies. That's actually a moot point at this point, so there's no.
Okay.
Thank
All right,
you,
bring
sorry.
the jurors in, please. Yes, Dave. Yes. Yes, please. Yeah.
All right, jurors exit. Court of the session, please be seated.
All right, Mr. Jackson, you can go ahead.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes,
Thank you.
please.
Firefighter Nuttall, over the lunch hour, did you discuss anything that we had discussed this morning or earlier in the session with anybody about your testimony?
No, sir.
Okay. You did mention earlier today the EMTs that were with you that responded to the scene. You mentioned, I think you said Tony Anthony Flamati, correct?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned Kelly, and I want to say Matt
Kelly.
Matt Kelly.
Yep.
Yourself.
Correct.
And of the three of you, two of the three of you were and are paramedics, our firefighter Flamati and yourself, correct?
Correct.
Do you know the name Katie MacLaughlin?
I do.
Who is Katie MacLaughlin?
She is a firefighter paramedic for the town of Canton.
Was she also on the call?
She was.
You didn't mention her this morning.
It did not come up. She responded on the initial dispatch on engine 3.
You were asked who responded with you, correct?
Yes, sir.
By Mr. Brennan.
Yes, sir.
And you mentioned yourself. You mentioned Tony Flamati. You mentioned Matt Kelly.
Yes, myself, firefighter Flamati, and firefighter Kelly responded in ambulance 1 together.
Okay. And how did firefighter MacLaughlin respond?
So she was assigned to engine 3 that night. She was with Lieutenant Woodbury and firefighter paramedic Frank Walsh.
She also, in addition to Walsh being, it's Frank Walsh?
Yes, sir.
In addition to firefighter Walsh being a paramedic, Katie MacLaughlin was also a paramedic.
Correct.
Okay. So she responded to the scene at the same time as you, generally, but in a different ambulance.
In a fire truck, in a piece of fire apparatus. She was in engine 3.
Got it. Engine 3. Okay. And she was with you, generally, when I say with you, at the scene during the entire time that you're describing the events that you described with Mr. Brennan on direct examination?
For the most part.
Okay. She then left in a particular ambulance, correct?
Yes, so she ended up driving ambulance 1 to Good Samaritan.
And ambulance 1 was which ambulance?
Ambulance 1 was the initial ambulance that myself, firefighter Kelly, and firefighter Flamati responded in.
So right after the scene you described, as you're leaving the scene, firefighter MacLaughlin is in the ambulance with you and firefighter Flamati, correct?
She is driving. So the three of us are in the back in the patient compartment. She is up front in the driver's seat.
Once at the hospital, did firefighter MacLaughlin go into the hospital with the other firefighters?
I believe so, yes.
So she was with you in the engine. She was, although in the driving cab, she was with you, ambulance in the driving cab. She was also with you right after the scene at the hospital, correct?
Yes, sir.
And she was also with you later after you cleared the hospital and went back to the station.
Yes, sir.
You had discussions with firefighter Flamati about the incident. That would be normal protocol.
Correct.
Almost like a debrief.
Sure.
You had the same types of discussions with firefighter Kelly, Matt Kelly.
Yes, sir.
I'm guessing that you probably had the same sorts of discussions with firefighter Walsh.
I actually don't know if I saw firefighter Walsh when we got back. The weather was right at shift change, and the weather getting back was also getting worse. So I honestly couldn't speak to that.
And you also had conversations with firefighter MacLaughlin after you cleared the hospital and got back to the station as well.
She was part of the debrief. Yes, sir.
Okay. And all of you discussed what you did, saw, and heard, generally speaking, while at the scene, correct?
Those are more in terms of getting equipment wrangled, really kind of how they go. What did we use? What do we need? What are we going to have to restock when we get back?
Right. But there also was obviously discussions about what had just happened. I mean, you were dealing with a dead or dying police officer on a lawn, on a snow-covered lawn in a cold environment.
I honestly couldn't speak to that, sir. I honestly don't remember.
It's because you don't remember, correct?
Well, like I said, it's mostly those debriefs are usually they're very equipment oriented because the goal at that point is to get back in service.
My question is not about the equipment. Obviously, you're going to discuss the equipment, make sure that the ambulance is ready for the next call, et cetera. I'm asking about a general debrief with the fellow firefighters, male and female, that you were with at that scene. You're telling me that you don't remember debriefing and discussing the incident and your observations at the incident following that incident.
No, sir.
Okay. But your memory, you indicated earlier, gets better with time, right?
Yes, sir.
You don't remember it as you sit here today?
Ask the question again.
Sure. Do you remember discussing with firefighter Flamati, firefighter Walsh, firefighter Kelly, firefighter MacLaughlin, any of them, your observations and what happened while at the scene after you cleared the hospital and got back to the station?
No, sir.
Have no memory of that whatsoever.
No, sir.
When we left off before lunch, I was asking you about a hematoma and a laceration over the right eye of Mr. O'Keefe. Do you
Yes,
recall
sir.
that?
Yes, sir.
I asked you, is being punched in the face, can that lead to a small laceration like you saw and a hematoma like you saw?
Objection.
I'm going to allow it.
Uh,
Can you answer that question?
I couldn't speak to how that injury occurred.
Is it consistent? Are those injuries, just those injuries, are those consistent with being punched in the face?
Those injuries could be sustained from numerous ways.
And I
Yes, it could be from that. It could be from others as well.
Okay, so that's what I'm asking you. It could be, in other words, it's consistent
Yes,
with
sir.
being punched in the face, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. I want to ask you about this statement that you indicate that you heard that now is 3 statements, 3 phrases, correct?
Yes, sir.
When you heard this statement, describe for me exactly where you were. What were you doing and who was around you?
I was knelt at the head of John O'Keefe with a bag valve mask, delivering ventilations. Firefighter Kelly was to the right, and firefighter Flamati was on the left side of Mr. O'Keefe, and the 3 of us together were working to perform CPR and ventilations.
And your job, and I hate to butcher it, but
Nope.
you'll correct me.
Yes, sir.
Your job was to do the airway, correct?
Yes, sir.
And I'm picturing a big balloon-like apparatus that you put over the patient's mouth. And
Exactly.
squeeze it.
Yes.
That's as opposed to, it's an advancement on just mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
You were the airway person doing the squeezing of the bag.
Correct.
What was Tony Flamati, firefighter Flamati, doing?
He was starting CPR, in which that point was taken over by firefighter Kelly.
Okay, so firefighter Flamati, when you say starting CPR, describe what that means. What is the physical act of CPR?
So you put both hands together like this, one on top of the other. You put it right on top of the sternum, and you begin doing chest compressions 2 inches deep, allowing full recoil for 100 to 120 beats per minute, compressions a minute to sustain a cardiac rhythm. You're manually making the heart beat with each compression.
Which means that is a rhythmic pumping motion, correct?
Yes, sir.
So if you see someone doing CPR, you're probably going to see their shoulders moving up and down and moving rhythmically, correct?
Correct.
Do you remember what firefighter Flamati was wearing? You had just come off of actually you were just coming onto a shift, so you didn't have all your foul weather gear officially, correct?
I had my puffy jacket.
Okay.
I had my Canton Fire jacket.
Got it. Firefighter Flamati, on the other hand, had a bright yellow jacket,
Correct.
sort of reflective and a safety jacket.
Yes, sir.
And he was kneeling to your left at the time doing, have I got that right?
Yep. Nope. Yep. You got that right.
Okay. He's kneeling to your left at the time doing chest compressions. That's when you indicate that Miss Reed walked over and made the statement.
Correct.
And Kelly was there as well?
Yes, sir.
Kneeling right beside all three of you as firefighter Flamati was giving the chest compressions, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You indicated that the statement was in response to a question that you asked of my client. Do you know him?
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Correct.
And she responded to you with the phrase that you've used. I hit him.
I hit him. I hit him. I hit him.
Right. So it's absolutely clear in your mind when that statement was made. You were knelt down over Mr. O'Keefe. Firefighter Flamati was doing the CPR, and Kelly was with the both of you when you posed that question.
Yes, sir.
It's a very detailed memory.
Yes, sir.
You indicated, Mr. Brennan, that sticks out in your mind. Is that right?
It does.
But that's not at all what you told Trooper Proctor on February 8th, just 10 days after this incident, is it?
I don't recall what I told Trooper Proctor.
I thought your memory got better with time.
I don't recall that meeting.
Okay.
I recall meeting with him, but I don't recall the extent of what was discussed.
You literally don't recall anything that was discussed in that meeting in that formal interview with the lead detective on this case.
We discussed the case, but I don't, and in his words, I'm not sure what he put down.
What you said to Trooper Proctor on February 8th, 10 days after this, was you overheard Miss Reed say, I hit him one time to another female that she was talking to, correct?
Objection.
No, I'll allow it. Did you say that?
I have no memory of this, Your Honor.
Okay, next question.
Did you say that her statement was an answer to a question posed by the female or a discussion with the female?
Break that down for me, sir.
Sure. Did you tell Trooper Proctor on February 8th that what you heard was Karen Reed speaking to a female, not answering a question that you posed?
Again, I don't recall that specific question.
Did you tell Trooper Proctor on February 8th while you were rendering aid, and at the time you heard the statement, Miss Reed was actually praying over John, your words, praying over John?
I don't recall ever saying that.
May I have just a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Did you say that you observed Karen Reed to have blood on her face from providing mouth-to-mouth breaths to Mr. O'Keefe prior to your arrival?
I remember Miss Reed having blood on her face, presumably from attempting CPR.
Do you remember telling Trooper Proctor on February 8th that you saw her with blood on her face from CPR?
I do.
So you remember that portion of your conversation with Trooper Proctor, correct?
Yes, sir.
But the praying over John, praying over the victim, you don't remember.
I don't remember ever saying that,
And
ever.
And the statement, I hit him to another female, you also don't remember that.
No, sir.
Would it refresh your recollection if you were to look at a report
Yes, sir.
offered by Trooper Proctor? May I?
Yes.
May I direct the witness's attention to the second page, Your Honor?
All right, why don't you take a look at Jackson?
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Sir, did you have an opportunity to glance at the report that you were just shown?
Yes, sir.
Does that refresh your recollection about your conversation with Trooper Proctor that he put in a report?
It does not, sir.
So as you sit here, you have no memory of what you just read in this report from Trooper Proctor, the lead investigator on the case?
I have no recollection of ever saying that anybody prayed over anybody ever in this case.
You did see it in his report, though.
Sustained.
You've admitted under oath that your memory of the events at that time, from that time frame, January, February 2022, is faulty, correct?
No, sir.
In your April 2024, it's April 30th, 2024 testimony from last year. You were asked whether or not your memory was a little faulty, and your answer was absolutely, correct?
Could I have a page and number,
Where is
please?
that, Mr. Jackson?
Volume 8, page 151, lines 14 through 16. Lines 14 through 16. I'll just allow counsel to get that up.
If we could pose the entire question and give content to it, please.
Okay.
May I?
Yeah, so do you intend to show the whole question?
The whole question that I asked and his answer, yes.
All right, and I'll give you the opportunity on redirect, Mr. Brennan, if it's not. Go ahead.
Is it true that in answer to the question, quote, so it's fair to say your memory is a little bit faulty as it pertains to that time frame? Your answer was absolutely. Correct?
From last year?
What you testified to last year about conversations that you had with Trooper Proctor around February 8th of 2022.
Yes, sir.
And you would agree, as you sit here, that your memory is still faulty about your conversation with him.
With
correct?
Trooper Proctor? Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
So you're not saying you didn't say that the statement was made to a woman, correct?
Objection.
Are you saying that?
No, ma'am.
Okay, next question.
Thank you. And you're also not saying that you didn't say to Trooper Proctor that you saw Karen Reed praying over John O'Keefe.
Objection.
So I'd like you to ask that differently. Did you say that?
I have no recollection of saying that ever.
Next question.
My point is, if you have no recollection of it, you're not denying saying it.
Objection.
Are you denying saying it?
Yes.
So you do have a recollection that you never said it. Do you understand the difference?
Oh, sir, I don't believe I've ever said praying. That's really not something that I would have said. I didn't see it that day. It didn't happen. I don't remember ever saying prayed
You didn't
in
see
regards
it
to this case ever.
You didn't see it that day, and it never happened. That was your words just now, correct?
Break that down for me.
You didn't see it that day, and it never happened. That's what you're saying about the praying statement, correct?
Yes, sir.
And in that same exact statement, you also included the phrase, I hit him, correct?
No, sir.
In the statement that you made to Trooper Proctor,
The report that Trooper Proctor wrote?
correct?
Again, I don't remember ever saying the words praying over him. I do distinctly remember I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
Which doesn't appear in that report, does it?
Objection.
I'm going to sustain that, Mr. Jackson. You directed him only to page 2.
Understood, Your Honor. I'd like to show you a short portion of a video, the same video that you were asked to look at on direct examination. And Your Honor, I pray to the court, I can certainly mark it as a defense exhibit or for
So is this
identification.
going to be an exhibit by agreement?
It is.
It
Okay,
is.
So we know that, Madam Court Reporter, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. With the court's permission, may I play a portion of that video for the jurors, publish it?
Okay. Which portion, so people know?
I'm going to start it at about, I want to say 6:55. Mr. Walt could cue that up. Before you play it, can we have it on that screen as well, or is it only playing to this screen?
I don't know. When Ms. Gilman did it, it was both. Great.
There we go. All right. Before we play it, can I ask you a quick question about this?
Sure.
It appears that this is paused. Do you recognize this as being the same video that you were shown this morning by Mr. Brennan?
I do.
All right. Describe the scene.
So that is 34 Fairview Road. The lights in the background, I believe it is either right as we pulled up or right as we're pulling up.
Okay. Same dash cam video.
Yes, sir.
Can we scroll this to the 6:55 runtime spot, please? Pause it. Okay. Do you see the individual on the left? Far left.
Yeah, the jacket?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Who's that?
I believe that's firefighter Flamati.
You previously indicated that when you heard Ms. Reed make this statement, that firefighter Flamati was on his knees providing CPR at the same time you were knelt down providing the airway.
This isn't when it was
That's
stated.
not my question. Is that what you said?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. You indicated earlier when you heard this statement by my client, you were very detailed. Firefighter Flamati was knelt down providing chest compressions at the same time you were knelt down providing airway support for Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
I had also said that at some point,
That's a
firefighter
yes or no
Flamati
question.
Objection.
So I'm going to let the witness answer the question.
had transferred CPR to firefighter Kelly. Firefighter Kelly did take over compressions at one point.
Okay. That's not my question.
Okay.
My question is an easy one. Did you say that when Miss Reed walked over to you and you had this dialogue with her, she made that statement that firefighter Flamati was on his knees providing chest compressions at the same time you were knelt down providing airway support?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Firefighter Flamati, your testimony appears to be standing up right there, correct?
Yes, sir.
Let's play the video forward for just a second. Stop it. What did you see firefighter Flamati do just now?
I believe he just knelt down.
Okay. So at this point, he's kneeling for the first time, correct?
Yes, sir.
And he's about to provide chest compressions as your memory serves, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's go ahead and play it forward. Pause. Did you see my client in that photo? In that clip?
No, sir.
You didn't see her?
Oh, no, I did see her. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see her on right now.
Right. She just walked off frame, correct?
Yes, sir.
Let's go ahead and play it forward. Stop it. You see my client walk back into the frame.
Yes, sir.
At this point, you were watching firefighter Flamati. He appears to be now providing CPR, correct?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. And my client is nowhere near you, correct? At least for this clip.
No, sir.
Okay.
Correct.
And the clip that I just played before, the few seconds that I played before, nowhere near you, correct?
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Let's go ahead and play it forward. Pause it, please. What do you see happening on the screen from screen right to screen left at this juncture?
We're bringing in the stretcher.
Okay, go ahead and play it. Pause it. Do you see where my client is right now?
You back it up 2 seconds. I'm sorry, I lost
With
view.
the court's permission, I need to ask the court's
Yes.
permission. Thank you. Okay, let's go ahead and play it. Pause. Did you see my client?
Yes, sir.
Where is she in the frame?
Behind that other individual.
Behind the SUV?
I believe she's in front of the SUV and behind the other individual.
Okay. I meant the SUV, that's the white SUV that's in
Yes, sir.
the far distance.
Yes.
That's the back of the SUV. She's behind it, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Not near you.
No.
Okay. Let's go ahead and play it. Go ahead and pause it. Do you see what firefighter Flamati is still doing throughout this entire clip?
Chest compressions?
Okay, let's go ahead and play it. Pause. What's happening now?
Where Mr. O'Keefe's on the scoop stretcher and he's being transferred to the ambulance stretcher.
So that's the entire time Mr. Flamati, firefighter Flamati, was giving chest compressions. It's captured right here on this video, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And now Mr. O'Keefe is up on the stretcher and you are no longer knelt down,
No, sir.
and firefighter Flamati is no longer knelt down,
No, sir.
and you're now following the stretcher with, it looks like 2 or 3 other EMTs, correct?
I am not in that frame, sir.
Okay, so you've walked away.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's go ahead and play it forward. Pause it. See where my client is?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and play it. Do you see firefighter Flamati or firefighter Kelly continuing to give chest compressions?
Yes, sir.
Which one is that? Do you know?
Believe it's firefighter Flamati.
Flamati?
Believe so.
Okay, so he's still doing all the chest compressions from start to finish.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what's happening right now?
Now we are transferring to ambulance 1.
And where's my client?
Right front and center.
May I have just a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
If I may have just a second. With regard, just a couple of more questions with the court's permission.
Okay.
I'm going to change gears with regard to what you talked about on direct examination, the hypothermic conditions. You're not a medical doctor, correct?
No, sir.
You don't diagnose patients?
Sir.
You're not diagnosing that John O'Keefe suffered from hypothermia that night?
No, sir.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Can you follow up, Brian?
Please. Firefighter Nuttall, the video the defense just showed you, did you notice any differences between that video and when I showed it to you, and that it doesn't have the time on it?
Yes, those were two different time frames on that video.
And when we spoke about when the defendant said to you, I hit him, that wasn't shown to you in that video just now, was it?
No, it was not.
So if we go back, will you be able to explain where you came from and firefighter Flamati came from and when you first went over to John O'Keefe?
Sure.
With the court's permission, Ms. Gilman, if you could start that video. I think it is 6:11, please. Now stop it there. Do you see that this exhibit has timestamp on the top?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please continue. Could you stop, please? Do you see the red lights on the left?
Yes, sir.
Is that when you believe that you first arrived?
Yes, sir.
And that note says 6:11:05. Could you continue, please, Ms. Gilman? Please watch to the left. Stop, please. Is that when you first arrive and walk over to help John O'Keefe?
Yes, sir. That's me.
I'll note that the timestamp is 6:11:21. Okay, continue, please. Stop, please. Did you see firefighter Flamati come after you?
Yes, sir.
Was any of this shown to you during those questions?
No, sir.
No. Continue, please. Stop, please. Do you see the defendant in that screen?
Yes, sir.
Do you see her moving from right to left towards you?
Sustained as to the form.
Okay. What direction do you see her running in that screen from right to left?
She's running towards where the three of us are grouped.
Okay. Please continue. Stop, please. Is it at that time the defendant said to you that she hit him?
Yes, sir.
And you remember that?
I do.
Okay. I'm done with the tape. Thank you very much. Now, you were asked questions about your memory.
Yes, sir.
Okay. When you were asked the questions about Trooper Proctor, when you were saying that you didn't remember, were you referring to the conversation with Trooper Proctor, or were you suggesting you didn't remember what happened that morning?
I don't remember the interview with Trooper Proctor. I remember it happened. I don't remember the substance of what was discussed entirely. I remember we discussed that morning, but
Do you know if that conversation was recorded or just a conversation between you and the trooper?
I do not know if it was recorded.
You asked questions. I want to ask you about questions on Mr. O'Keefe, and you mentioned that there was some type of blood clotting on the back of his head.
Yes, sir.
You noticed there were abrasions on his right arm.
Yes, sir.
You noticed there was a hematoma on the right side of his head.
Yes, sir.
Did you see any bruising on his right knee?
Don't recall, sir.
Did it stand out to you that all of his injuries, all of them that you saw, other than the cut on the back of the head, that they were all on his right side?
Yes, sir.
Did you notice any hematomas on his left side?
I did not.
Did you notice any scratches or abrasions on his left side?
I did not.
Did you notice any marks that would be consistent with an altercation on the left side of his body?
I did not.
You were asked about the cause, and you said that you don't know the cause. You weren't there, were you?
No, sir.
You asked if it was consistent with being punched, and you said it could be.
Yes, sir.
Could it be consistent with being clipped by a car?
Objection.
Sustained as to the form.
You were asked questions about clothing,
Yes, sir.
and you had at one point said you thought that Mr. O'Keefe was wearing a winter jacket. Do you have any memory that when you first got there, or when you first got there, do you have any memory whether there were any towels wrapped around Mr. O'Keefe's head?
I remember there was a white cloth of some sort on the scene.
Okay. And when you were asked about your memory regarding the clothing, was the clothing of what was utmost importance to you at that time?
No, sir.
And why is that?
I was, again, focused on Mr. O'Keefe's airway and ventilation.
Okay. And when you were asked about the clothing, do you remember if you added anything else about your certainty or uncertainty about clothing when you previously gave a statement or testimony?
I believe when I testified last year, I did note I had no part in removing any articles of clothing or anything like that. That was not my job in the back of the truck.
Do you remember any recognition of the fact whether you were certain or not about clothing?
Repeat the question, sir. I'm sorry.
Well, is there anything that would refresh your memory about what you had said about clothing?
Objection.
Ask a different question first.
You had mentioned that you had some difficulty about clothing. Do you remember what you had previously said?
I remember there was some difficulty of getting the individual's fingers through clothing just because they were so cold. They were difficult to manipulate. Just they really was not conducive to getting clothing off easily.
You met with me 3 times.
Yes, sir.
I had not met you before any of your prior testimonies, had I?
No, sir.
Do you remember meeting with me and discussing this case with me?
I do.
Do you remember me asking you to tell me what you remember?
I do.
Do you remember what I told you about testimony when you come into court?
Yes, sir.
What would I tell you?
I remember we discussed that just tell the truth.
Did I tell you that it doesn't matter? There is no side. Doesn't matter if it helps or hurts, that you just tell the truth?
Sustained.
Did I ever suggest to you that you should stick to a story?
No, sir.
Did I ever suggest to you you should offer your testimony in any certain way?
No, sir.
When I talked to you, did I ever ask you to say anything about your testimony to this jury?
No, sir.
Other than what?
Speak to the jury.
Did I need to tell you to tell the truth?
No, sir.
And in telling the truth, did the defendant say to you, I hit him, I hit him?
I'll allow it.
Yes, sir. 3 times.
And in fact, do you remember, in addition to her saying, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, when you asked her the question, kneeling down over John O'Keefe's body, do you remember if you ever talked about other times that she said it, not to you?
I do not.
Okay,
The answer is I do not. Next question.
okay. Do you remember testifying previously in this case?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember at all discussing whether or not, after she left you, whether or not the defendant was still talking and speaking?
I'm sorry, sir. Repeat the question.
Do you remember after the defendant left you and made that statement to you, do you remember talking, did you hear her speak to other people after you?
I heard her having conversations in the background, but that was not my focus at that time.
Okay. And during those conversations in the background, did you hear her talk about that same issue again?
I believe she said it several times, but the 3 times she said it to me were what stuck out to me.
Okay. And when she said it to other people, it wasn't directly to you?
No, sir.
So watch the form of the question, Mr. Brennan.
And when she said it to-
Stating the objection.
When she said it to other people, do you know who she said it to?
I do not.
I'll allow it. So the answer is I do not.
I'm sorry.
Do you remember when she said it other times who she said it to?
I'm going to see counsel at sidebar for this.
I'm seeing a little bit of a more aggressive side to Hank Brennan here, the prosecutor coming in for the rebuttal or redirect rather, after the cross-examination of Alan Jackson. In Alan Jackson's style is always aggressive with witnesses. He just intimidates pressers, kind of borderline harassment in how he tries to tell you what you're saying. That's his style. He's been like that in other trials that I have seen him. I've looked at some of his other cases that he has defended, Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey. In the Kevin Spacey cases alone, on the witness stand, it was quite intimidating, and witnesses were quite shocked. It's his style. It takes a lot to just keep coming back at it. This paramedic is doing his best to tell the truth the way it is. It has been 3.5 years. You have a trial and then you have a retrial. If for whatever reason there's going to be small differences here and there, I'm not saying it doesn't matter. Of course it does. And of course the defense is going to use it. What I can see that this is going to be a war. We said that in the beginning. This trial is going to be a legal attorney tit for tat. Defense versus prosecution. They're actually acting like it's personal at this point. Jackson, out of the gate, very aggressive. Redirect by Hank, you could hear it in his tone. He was like, coming out of the gate, hold on there. We're going to fix this right now. That's ridiculous. Like, I could hear it in his tone. Now, you want the prosecutor to be able to do that. You want them to be able to readdress anything that's been torn down in the testimony you wanted to reach the jury. It takes knack. It takes finesse. But I am worried about the jury at this point. On day one, I am worried that they are going to grow tired of this kind of shenanigans really quick. Very quick. From both sides. Neither side can win if they act like this. No. Jury's going to see it. I'm sure Judge Cannone is trying not to open doors that don't need to be opened, and she's also trying to find out the reason for continuous objections and to reverse these questioning into a bad area. So we'll see what happens here.
Sir, after the defendant came over to you and spoke and then left, do you remember hearing her make further statements?
Yes, sir.
And do you remember her making further statements similar
I do.
to the statement to you?
Yes, sir.
Could you share with the jury what you remember her saying, not to you, but after she left you?
I remember hearing I hit him several other times. Again, not directed to me, just kind of off in the background. I'd like to reiterate, we were really focused on the patient at that point. We were trying to provide care.
Thank you, sir.
So now, after Mr. Brennan asks you a few questions, now you remember her saying, I hit him a bunch more times, correct?
I remember hearing it in the background several other times.
Really?
Sir,
Never mentioned that on direct examination, did you?
I don't remember being asked about it, sir. I remember saying what was asked to me.
You were asked, did you ever hear the defendant, Ms. Reed, say anything about I hit him? And your answer was, she said to me, in answer to my question, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him 3 times, and that's it.
To me.
You didn't clarify that, oh my gosh, she's running around like a chicken with her head cut off, screaming, I hit him to everybody else under the sun.
It was, again, it was behind me in the background
Right?
as I was providing patient care. Again, that was not my focus.
Okay, so you didn't really hear her say anything in the background because you weren't focused on that, right?
I remember hearing a generalized commotion in the background, but again, that was not our focus.
So generalized commotion is very different than hearing her say, I hit him to other people, correct? You'd agree with that?
Yes, sir.
So what you actually heard was the chaos and the commotion of a chaotic scene, correct? In the background,
In the background.
as you focused on your patient care, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, not specific words coming out of my client's mouth, correct?
To the question that I posed, do you know him?
You're right. We're off that question.
Okay.
That question, I got it.
Yes, sir.
Triple I hitters.
Correct.
But with regard to what Mr. Brennan just asked you, the generalized commotion, to use your phrase,
Mhm.
in the background, you didn't hear any specific words coming out of my client's mouth, did you?
I heard I hit him. But again, it was in the background and it was not my focus.
Well, why didn't you say that on direct? That's kind of an important point. That's why you're here.
Again, if it was neglected on my part, it was not intentional.
Not intentional to neglect that part for the jurors on direct examination.
No, sir.
Certainly not intentional to neglect that part of your testimony on cross-examination.
No, sir.
But you decided to bring it up on on recross examination when Mr. Brennan is asking you questions again, correct?
It was asked of me. Yes,
And
sir.
it was after, of course, that your new statement that you've never testified to before, ever, is this generalized commotion included a bunch of I hit hims in the background, correct?
Sir.
And that comes after you saw the video that clearly shows that when you describe having heard this statement, my client was nowhere around you, correct?
That segment of the video that you showed me,
Yes.
that was not the time frame in which she said that to me.
Well, that was the time frame when Flamati was giving CPR, correct?
He was doing CPR down prior to that as well.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Well, you just testified that you saw him standing up in a big yellow jacket and then kneel down and start giving CPR. We just watched that video. Correct?
But again, the clip of the video that you showed me,
Right?
that was not the segment in which he said that to me.
Well, that's what you're saying now, but what I'm asking is, you described a very distinctive scene, a very, very specific scene.
Yes, sir. I remember it vividly.
She said, that I hit him frame, when Flamati was down giving CPR, and you were kneeling down giving airway support, and he was doing rhythmic CPR chest compression.
Yes, sir. That's what happened.
And then I showed you that very scene, didn't I?
Yes, you showed me that clip prior to that.
I showed you the very scene that you described where Flamati gets down and starts chest compressions and never stops until the gurney is taken off the frame of the camera to the end. Isn't that what I showed you?
That is,
Sure. I don't know if I can do it again. I showed you the scene where firefighter Flamati gets down on his knees, begins chest compressions, and never stops until that gurney is taken off camera, off frame, into the ambulance. That's the clip I showed you, correct?
that is the clip you showed me.
And that's exactly when you described your vivid memory from 3.5 years ago. That's exactly the scene that you described when my client supposedly said, I hit him to you, correct?
Again, the clip that you showed me, that was not when it was said. That segment that you showed, that was not when it was said. It was said prior to that, when the
Yeah.
three of us were together.
So Flamati was not giving chest compressions then.
He was. The CPR was a continuous effort throughout the resuscitation.
But we saw him start it. Officer, firefighter Nuttall, we saw him start it. We saw him walk into the frame, kneel down, and begin the chest compressions, didn't we?
We did.
And at no point at that time or after did my client even approach you, did she, in that clip?
She did.
What?
Objection.
Just a question.
Sure,
Mr. Johnson.
sure. Do you need to see the, that clip again?
Yes, please.
We're not going to show the video again. We've seen 2 videos. Which one is marked?
The
The
Commonwealth.
one with the timestamp in
Right.
the top?
It's the exact same video. One has timestamp, one doesn't. Just to be clear, you described a very detailed scene in which firefighter Flamati got down on the ground on his knees and began CPR.
Yes, sir.
We saw a clip that was, it played fully through.
Mhm.
Starts and stops, but it played fully through, correct?
Yes, sir.
That was true and accurate video of what happened that day,
Yes, sir.
that morning, correct?
Correct.
And from the time firefighter Flamati began his CPR, he never stopped. Went all the way through until the burning was taken off the camera, correct?
Correct.
You also described very clearly before you saw the video that the time when my client walked over and you had this dialogue and you heard this statement, it was during the time that firefighter Flamati was given CPR, correct? You described it.
Yes, sir.
But when we actually see firefighter Flamati giving the CPR, as per your description, at no time did my client walk over and have a conversation with you, did she? In
She-
that video?
She did in the video.
In the portion that Mr. Brennan played you, was firefighter Flamati giving CPR at that point?
As I said previously
Was
as well.
he or was he not? Yes or no?
Objection.
I'm going to let the witness answer the question.
Firefighters Kelly and Flamati were trading off CPR. Tony started doing CPR, and it was passed off at one point to firefighter Kelly. Firefighter Kelly at that time was a BLS EMT. Firefighter Flamati was a paramedic. They're going to move towards firefighter Kelly performing CPR because at that time his skill set was not as advanced as firefighter Flamati's, as Tony's. But they did switch off. That is a routine cardiac arrest. We switch off compressions.
But the video that Mr. Brennan showed you was earlier in time, a few seconds or a minute or two earlier.
Yes, sir.
You'd agree with that, correct?
I would.
And firefighter Flamati had not begun CPR, had he?
I don't believe so.
That's right, he hadn't. But that's the time that my client walked over in your general area, correct?
Correct.
Before CPR was started, correct?
CPR was started immediately, sir.
Can we wrap this up?
I don't know if we can, Judge.
Give you a couple more minutes.
Do you understand the confusion?
Objection.
Sustained.
All right, a couple more questions on this. The video that Mr. Brennan showed you,
Yes, sir.
and you pointed to and said, oh, that's the time when she walked over and said the statement.
Yes, sir.
Remember that?
I do.
Firefighter Flamati was not even kneeling down giving CPR, was he at that point?
No,
The answer is yes or no?
no.
Okay, he was not. Later, as the video continues to run, at some point, we see firefighter Flamati enter the screen, kneel down in that bright, reflective yellow jacket, and begin CPR, correct?
Yes, sir.
You had previously said that when you heard the statement and she walked over to you, it was when firefighter Flamati was giving CPR, correct?
Yes, sir.
And at no point, you'll agree with me, we just played the video, at no point after he started giving CPR did my client come anywhere near you. Isn't that what the video showed?
That was the segment that you showed me.
You indicated on on redirect, that Mr. O'Keefe did not have any injuries to the left side of his body.
Not that I recall.
Isn't it true that in addition to the egg on the right side of his head, he also had a black eye on the left side.
I remember that the swelling had started to, it's referred to kind of as raccoon eyes. It's a bruising of both eyes.
Do you remember
battle
saying-
signs.
Do you remember saying, in answer to the question, did it look like, in addition to the egg on the right side of his head in the front, did he also have a black eye on the left side? Your answer is, if memory serves correct, yes.
Yes, sir.
So it's not true that he didn't have any injuries on the left side of his body or face, correct?
That swelling kind of migrates over time to both sides. That is a common occurrence for both eyes to be swollen.
Did he have an injury to the left side of his face?
He did not.
Did he have a black left eye?
Yes, he did.
Would you consider a black eye an injury?
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you the question again then. Did he have an injury to the left side of his face?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. One last question. You indicated that it was a chaotic scene outside on that front yard.
Yes, sir.
Fire engines, ambulances, patrol vehicles, engines running, diesel engines, flashing lights, people screaming, people talking over the howling wind, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever see the homeowner come out the front door?
Don't recall.
You don't recall, or you didn't?
I have no idea who the homeowner is.
And you never saw anybody come out the front of the house?
No, sir.
That's all I have.
One issue. Briefly.
I want to see counsel at sidebar.
I do think there's going to be a lot of that. I have very rarely seen direct cross, direct recross, and then redirect again. There is some contention here. The way that Alan Jackson is attacking it, trying to get the witness to say what he wants him to say, it is evident that they're talking about two different parts of the video at two different times. And this witness is trying to express that to him, and he's not hearing it because he wants it to be the other way. He wants the jury to hear that there's a problem here with the videos, that there's a problem here with all of the witnesses, that they're all lying, because everyone in, apparently, law enforcement and all of the first responders, everyone is setting Karen up, apparently. Now, I know I'm being a little snide here, but it is very hard for me to listen to the way these people are being treated by the defense and were in the first trial also. You know, there are better ways to get a true defense out there. You can't manipulate your way into innocence. Well, they're sure trying like hell.
Sir, in Mr. Jackson's questions, he asked if you had ever said that you heard the defendant say, "I hit him," separate from when she approached you. Do you remember previously testifying that you heard her saying, "I hit him" in the background, separately from you?
Yes, sir.
You remember testifying that before under oath
Yes, sir.
in court?
I do.
Anything, Mr. Jackson?
Yeah, just a second, right?
I'm sorry.
And notice that Alan Jackson is trying to come back from this information getting in because he didn't ask the question. Hank Brennan did and got it in. And so he's trying to discredit it. Because if multiple people heard her say it doesn't matter if this witness says it was 2 times or 3 times. Multiple witnesses claiming the
Yes,
same
just a
thing.
quick question, Firefighter Nuttall. When you were asked to recite your memory of that day on February 8th, 2022, just 10 days after this incident, did you ever say that you heard in the background, "I hit him" over and over again?
I don't recall.
All right.
When you testified at the grand jury, last question, when you testified at the grand jury, did you ever say that?
I don't recall.
But again, your memory is better now than it was then.
Yes, sir.
All right. Firefighter Nuttall, you are all set.
Thank you, ma'am.
Wow. I do not recall his
Next
good
witness,
answer.
Mr. Brennan?
Thank you. The Commonwealth calls Kerry Roberts.
Kristen, could I?
Okay.
And I did have an exhibit I would like to introduce and
Okay.
play for the jury.
Okay.
And this is clip 2.
No objection from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
And you're marking this as an exhibit?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Do you have something for the court reporter to mark?
We can put it on a zip drive. We can discuss collecting all the clips and putting them on the same zip drive, or we can use different zip drives, whatever the court's preference is.
We need something. So we need something physical. You can play it and then we'll mark it.
Ms. Gilman, do you have a separate clip?
Jim, is that right?
Thank you. I can have this marked, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Roberts, please. Okay, thank you.
We'd like to play this first and then call Ms.
Oh,
Roberts.
okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I remember it, but I question, do I remember it because it's been relived so much? I mean, when I see the video of me driving from the waterfall, like what I just described, tapping the brakes when I crossed the intersection, Washington over Sherman Street, do I actually remember that I kind of slowly proceeded through that green light? No, I don't actually remember that. But I've seen the video so many times that you then question, did I remember it on my own? Or was my memory jogged? But I also wondered, did I say, could I have hit him? Or was it told to me that I said I hit him? And I knew I never could have said that. So the closest I must have said was, did I hit him? I know I said I hit him, but did I really say it as many times as law enforcement's claiming I said it?
Thank you. I now call Kerry Roberts.
Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the evidence given in the court and jury in the case now hearing to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Yes. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Brennan, whenever you're ready. Good
Thank you, Your
afternoon,
Honor.
Ms. Roberts.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Could you please introduce yourself to this jury?
Hi, my name is Kerry Roberts.
Ms. Roberts, where do you live?
I live in Canton, Massachusetts.
How long have you lived in the area for?
I was raised in the Boston area, North Shore, South Shore. I went to high school in Braintree and I moved to Canton about 12 years ago.
Do you live alone?
No, I live with my husband and 2 children.
How old are your children presently, this day?
My son is 13, my daughter's 15.
Do you work?
Yes, I do.
Without identifying specifically where, can you share with us a little bit about what you do?
I'm an executive assistant, and I've been with my company for 18 years.
Ma'am, if you could just move the microphone just a tiny bit closer. Thank you very much. You have 2 children, you're
Yes.
married,
Yes,
and you live in the area.
yes.
I want you to tell us whether you know a person by the name of John O'Keefe.
Yes, I do.
Would you be willing to share with us when you first met Mr. O'Keefe?
Well, I went to high school with John in Braintree. He played soccer, I played soccer, so we probably hung out in middle school, but we went to 2 different middle schools. And then I hung out with him more in high school. He was a year older than me. His sister was 2 years older than him in school, and his brother was younger, so at some point I was in high school with each of his siblings.
Did you at some point become friendly with John O'Keefe?
Yes.
Could you tell us about that?
When his sister Kristen passed away, and then her husband Steve passed away, they lived in my neighborhood. John took over for the children and moved into my neighborhood as well.
When John took in the children, did you offer any assistance or any help to him?
Yes, before John was even going to take over, he was going to potentially move in with his brother-in-law and the children to help out. And then when his brother-in-law passed away unexpectedly, John took over and I jumped in because I was a friend from high school that he knew, and he had all kinds of people helping, but he sort of said, I'm going to lean on you for right now because I know you best. And I knew his parents and his siblings. And so I introduced him to my husband and we jumped in. It was, preschool drop-offs, preschool pickups for my son and his son. And just from then until the time of his death, we were just friends, very close friends. And we hung out all the time. The children hung out all the time. And he was the emergency contact list at my children's school to call if something had happened.
Were you close friends before he took over the care of the children?
No, I wasn't very close friends with him then.
Were you close with his family before he took over care of the children?
No.
Did your friendship with him develop after he took care of the children?
Yes.
You mentioned you have a son,
Yes, I do.
and is your son the same age as John's nephew?
Yes.
Was there any common interests or activities that engaged your son with John's nephew?
Well, they went to in-home daycare together. They went to preschool together. They went to pre-K together. And they went to elementary school. They played baseball together since they were T-ball. My son plays hockey. Patrick tried hockey. He didn't like that. So we spent a lot of time at the baseball fields together.
As you spent a lot of time together and had mutual care of children, did your relationship with him grow closer?
Yes.
And can you share a little bit with the jury how close you became?
Well, John was a bachelor and he didn't have any children of his own. So when he took over for the children, he sort of, leaned on us to kind of guide him and, all the things to do if there's someone has a headache and, if there's an ear infection or, he had his mom and dad also helping as well, but I was right up the street. So if I would go to BJ's, I would call and say, can I grab you anything? If I would go to Walmart, any of the places I would go, I would call and say, do you need anything? Can I help you? Can I grab something for you? And he did the same. We just sort of all chipped in and helped.
As your friendship grew, could you tell us a little bit about your relationship with John?
John and I were very close. We spoke on the phone and hung out. He became very close with my husband as well because he was right down the street. But we just had a friendship, a very close friendship.
Tell us about the day-to-day activities and how you would try to assist John with the children.
Well, John moved across town. I don't remember when. I forget how many. Patrick, I think, was in 5th grade or 4th grade. And I would take him home with me on Wednesdays because John would be working. So it was more of a, if he was at my house and my daughter needed a ride the other side of town, he would take her with him. We were just very close friends. We did a lot together. We would do baseball tournaments together. We would have drinks together. We would, all the things friends do.
As you grew closer to John and helped with the children, did you become closer with his family?
Yes.
And who specifically did you become closer with?
Mrs. O'Keefe and Mr. O'Keefe, his parents, and Paul, I would see from time to time, but not a lot. He doesn't live in Canton. But Mr. and Mrs. O'Keefe would be there all the time to help as well. And Mr. O'Keefe would take my son and Patrick, the nephew, out to Dunkin' Donuts all the time.
Can you tell us a little more about the collective effort of other people, including his family, helping John raise these children?
There was a lot of us that jumped in to help. It was not just me. There was a lot of Kaylee's friends' parents that jumped in and helped for Kaylee, his niece, and Patrick. There was a lot of us that helped out with Patrick. All of the community all came together to help him because there was this guy that just lost his sister and brother-in-law, and he stepped in to take care of these two kids, and he didn't really know what he was doing at first, but he got the hang of it pretty quickly.
You have a son that shared a lot of interests with his nephew.
Yes.
He also had a niece.
Yes.
Did you spend more time helping with his nephew or with his niece?
With his nephew.
Were there other people in the community you knew of who spent more time helping with his niece?
Yes.
And who was that?
Jen McCabe.
Did you know Jen McCabe?
I had met her once. John got a discount at Reebok, so he would take the kids, he would take anyone with kids up with him to get shoes, like sneakers for back to school or whatever. So one day he did take Jen and I up to Reebok, but other than that, I never talked to her on the phone. I never saw her out. Her children are older than mine, so we never really crossed paths.
As it relates to the night of January 29, 2022, how much earlier was it that John took you out with the children and Miss McCabe out with her children to get sneakers? How many years before that?
Years, like 6 or 7 maybe.
And from that time you met Jen McCabe in the years past, did you ever spend time with her again before January 29th, 2022?
No, I did not. I didn't know her.
Were you friends with her?
I was not.
Did you speak on the phone with her?
No, I did not.
So other than that one meeting, you were strangers?
Yep, that was the only time. I knew her. I knew of her. She has 4 girls, but I didn't know her.
At some point, as you were part of John's life, did you learn that he was dating a person by the name of Karen Reed?
Yes, I did.
And do you see that person here in the courtroom today?
Yes, I do.
Could you point her out and describe an article of clothing that she's wearing?
She has a black suit jacket seated at the front table.
When did you first become familiar or know about Miss Reed?
July, I think it was, of 2020. John, we were having people over, and so I invited him, and he said, I'm going to bring Karen over. And I was like, I don't know who that is, but okay. He assumed I knew because he had been dating her for a little bit, but it was COVID, so we didn't see him very often during that time. So Karen came over that night.
This is early 2020?
I think it was summer, so I think it was around June or July.
Briefly, just tell us a little bit about where and the circumstances of meeting John and Karen for the first time.
They came over to my house and we hung out on the back porch, had some drinks, there was music, kids were around, just a nice, normal summer night. We had other people over as well.
Over the next coming months, did you become more familiar with the defendant?
Yes.
Did you see her more often?
Yes.
And could you generally describe for the jury how you learned more of her and saw her more often?
She would take care of the kids a lot, mainly, well, not mainly Patrick, but not mainly Kaylee either. She helped out a lot with the kids. So if we were at baseball, she would come to all the baseball games, or she would drop off or pick up my son or Patrick if they were going to the golf course or the driving range.
Would you see her during events with your son and John's nephew?
Yes. We did baseball tournaments. And
so when you go to baseball tournaments, would that be away, an overnight type trip?
one of them was down the Cape.
How often would you spend time with John and the defendant?
Not that often together, but John would stop by himself. My husband would go out more with John, but I didn't spend much time with the two, not a lot of time outside of the baseball field.
Did you become friends with the defendant?
We were friendly.
Did you ever spend time alone to go out or socialize?
I did not.
Would you see her when you would pick up or drop off kids, or she would pick up or drop off kids?
Yes.
Did you ever speak to her on the phone?
Yes.
In relation to what?
Corresponding with the kids, pick up, drop off, mainly Ryan and Patrick, not about Kaylee.
Did you ever spend any important dates or times or holidays with John and Miss Reed?
No.
I want you to take us ahead to January 28th, 2022.
Okay.
On January 28th, 2022, do you remember that day?
Yes.
Generally, what do you remember about the day of January 28th, 2022?
There was a blizzard coming, and it was my daughter's friend's birthday. So we were going to be going out celebrating that night, but we did it on the early side because there was a blizzard coming.
What was your plan for that evening?
We went bowling. We got dinner, then we went bowling, and then I came home because I wanted to be in before the snow started.
Had you communicated in any way with John that day?
Yes, he texted me. My son had had an issue at school. Patrick had been dismissed, I think, for a doctor's appointment. So he did text me to see how my son was doing.
Did you simply text, or did you get a chance to speak to him that day?
I believe we just texted.
Did you go out that night after bowling?
No, I did not.
Was your husband home?
Yes,
Did he go out that night?
he did. He went out with John.
And do you know where he was planning on going?
They went to McCarthy's, a bar in Canton Center.
Had you been to McCarthy's before?
Yes.
Can you just briefly describe what McCarthy's is?
It's a restaurant bar. There's a large bar in the middle, the seating on the left and the right. It's right in the center of town.
Do you remember about what time your husband went out?
I do not remember exactly. I don't know if I got home and then he went out, or if he was already gone when I got home. I don't remember, but it was he went out around the same time that I arrived home, which was on the earlier side.
How many times had you been to John's home, would you say, over the past couple of years before this night?
Oh, many.
Many times?
Many times.
Were you familiar with the house and the driveway?
Yes.
May I approach you on?
Yes.
Should I return to the podium and ask the questions?
You
now?
can ask them from there.
Thank you. Ma'am, I'd ask you to take a look at that photo in front of you. Do you recognize what is in that photo?
That is John's house.
Is that a fair and accurate depiction of how his house looks?
Yes, it is.
I'd like to move this to evidence, please.
Okay, any objection?
No objection. May I publish to the jury, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. You can take it down. I've shown you a second photo. Do you recognize what's in that photo?
Yes, that's John's driveway.
Is that a fair and accurate depiction of how John's driveway appears?
Yes, it is.
I'd move that into evidence. No objection.
Okay.
Exhibit 7 so marked.
May I publish?
Yes.
Could. Thank you. I'm showing you a third photo. Do you recognize what's in that photo?
Yes.
And could you share with the jury what's in that photo?
It's the side of John's house looking up from the driveway.
Is there anything you notice on the side of the house?
The lights or the ring camera.
Are you guessing, or do you know that's a?
No,
ring camera?
I know there's one there
And how do you know that?
because I got a ring camera and I could look and see who was at my door And then he said, why didn't you tell me about these things? So he bought one.
I move to introduce this photo.
Okay,
No objection.
thank you.
May I publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
Ms. Roberts, with the laser pointer, could you just point at the picture and show where the ring camera is?
On this screen?
Yes, please.
Whichever one you can do.
Okay. Why isn't it working?
Nope.
It's on.
Okay, well, you know what, rather than use the pointer, why don't we can you describe where you see the ring camera on that picture?
It's in where the two lights are under the top window.
Okay, thank you. We could take that down, please. How many times would you guess you had been over to his house?
I don't know. More than 50,000. I don't even know. A lot. It was weekly.
That night, you told us that your husband went out to meet John at McCarthy's, the bar.
Yes, he did.
Do you remember your husband coming home that night?
Yes.
Do you have any memory of about what time he returned?
I'm guessing, but somewhere around 10:30.
So I'm not going to let you guess. Do you know? Do you have it?
I don't know. It was around 10 or 10:30. I can't be exact.
Did you see him come home?
Yes,
What was the forecast for that night and the next morning?
there was a blizzard coming.
Was that part of the decision-making of going out or staying home?
Yes.
At that time, when your husband came home, did you look outside? Do you have any memory of what the weather looked like around 10:30?
I remember the snow started to fall somewhere around 12 because I remember looking out the window and I could see it starting.
And that was the beginning of the snowfall?
I believe so.
What was the weather out that night?
The weather that night, I think, was fine. It was cold, but it wasn't snowing yet.
I want to move forward ahead. At some point that night, did you go to sleep?
Yes, I did.
Did you sleep through the night, Ms. Roberts?
Yes, I did.
At some point, did you wake up?
Yes, I did.
I want you to tell us what was the reason that you woke up.
I got a phone call at 5 o'clock in the morning from Karen Reed.
Were you expecting a call?
No, I was not.
Had you ever received a call at 5 in the morning from Ms. Reed before?
No.
Share with us what happened that morning. What did you hear?
Karen called and the first thing she said was, Kerry, John's dead. And then she hung up. And then
When she said that, did you have a chance to have a conversation with her?
no, I did not.
Describe her demeanor when she said that.
She was yelling loud enough, my name, I think it was 3 times, it might have been 2. She was yelling loud enough that she woke my husband.
Your husband was sleeping next to you?
Yes, he was.
Was she loud, yelling, screaming?
Yes, she was very loud. She was screaming.
After she said, Kerry, John's dead, did you know what she meant?
No,
And did you say this was around 5:15?
this was at 5. She called me at 5 on the dot.
After she hung up, what did you do?
I was half asleep still. I didn't know what was going on. So I started to get up and I think I tried to call her back. I know I tried to call her back, but I don't know exactly when because I was like, what? So my husband said, what was that? I said, I don't know. Something's going on. I don't know what's going on. That was Karen. And then I tried to call her back. I know I tried to call her back, but I don't know if she answered or if she called me back the next time I spoke to her.
After you or she called you again, did you have another discussion or did you hear her say something else the second time you spoke to her?
Yes, the second time she said, I think something happened to John. I think he got hit by a plow. He didn't come home last night. Kaylee was home. He would never leave her by herself, and I was not supposed to stay at the house last night. So I think something happened to him.
Did she say anything about drinking?
Yes, she said, we drank so much, I don't remember anything from last night. And I said, okay, where are you now? She said, I'm driving. And I said, you need to go home. Where's Kaylee? And she said, at home. I said, you need to go home and be with Kaylee. She cannot handle this, thinking, you know, her uncle's missing. I said, you're going to get a DUI. You need to go home.
Was there anything else in the conversation that she said to you at that time?
She said, I'm going to drive to your house. Would you drive my car? And I said, yes. So at that point, I started to get dressed. I turned on the automatic car starter so it would warm up. Told my husband, you know, I don't know what's going on. John didn't come home. And so I think my husband tried to call him and I tried to call him. And my husband said, you're not going anywhere. It's a blizzard. He's probably on somebody's couch. And I was like, I know, but she's really upset. I'm just going to go. She wants to come here. I'm going to drive her car. And then I went out to my car and sat and waited for her.
When you called John, did you get any response?
No, I did not.
As you were waiting for the defendant, did you make any other phone calls?
I did. When I was in the car, I thought to myself, well, she thinks he got hit by a plow. I'm going to call the police and see if there was an accident or maybe something happened. They brought him in. And I spoke to the officer who said, no, nothing of that sort. I've been here all night. And then I called the Good Samaritan Hospital and Milton Hospital to see if they had anybody that was taken in an accident.
When you called the police to look for Mr. O'Keefe, did you call 911?
No, I called the non-emergency line.
Do you know if that call was recorded?
I believe so.
I'd like to introduce an exhibit.
Okay. Any objection?
No objection.
Okay.
When you called the police, what was your level of worry at that point?
I wasn't super worried. I mean, he didn't come home, but they were out drinking. So I assumed, like my husband said, he's probably on somebody's couch.
The second call you had with Miss Reed, can you describe her demeanor in that second call?
She was frantic. She was frantic. I mean, she couldn't find John, so she was very worried.
How soft or loud was that phone call?
It wasn't as loud as the first one, but it wasn't a regular conversation.
With the court's permission, I'd like to play the exhibit of the call.
Okay.
Hi, Brennan said, Cont says my friend's boyfriend did not come home last night. We were at waterfall. And now she is calling me hysterical because she doesn't know where he is. You didn't pick anybody outside the name of JohnOkeefe, did you? JohnOkeefe? Yeah, he's the Boston cop, and it would be on post, but.
No.
He probably got a ride and passed out at someone's house. I don't know, but.
Yeah, no, we didn't lock anybody up or anything like that. And where does he live?
He lives on Meadow, there at the present.
He lives on Meadow, off Pleasant. Okay, and where's the you said your girlfriend?
His girlfriend, yeah, they were out having drinks, and then she left and expected him to come home at some point, and he never did.
Yeah.
And so I said to her, you know, my husband had been out with him earlier in the night, but then he obviously came home, and he has custody of his niece and nephew because their parents passed away.
Okay.
And so she's home with the niece and nephew, and they're old enough to be home. And so she's nervous because she never even happened.
Yeah.
So she's like, I feel like something happened, and I said, okay. Well, so call the area hospital and nobody's happening. I personally think he probably picked him up and he passed out. I don't know.
Yeah, where, did he didn't drive last night?
No.
No. Okay. Again, it's more, it would be driven by you. She would have to, call in or come to the patient and talk to us. But I mean, as of right now, it's more, he just didn't come home last night. Is this common sometimes happen with him?
No, that's why. He didn't tell me. That's kind of why she's more freaking out. So I figured I called the area hospital and then I would call Canton police just to make sure, they get picked up. Like I said, it's not complete stuff, very low fresh people. If anybody could pick them up.
Yeah.
So
say I wasn't there, I was stuck here. But we didn't get any calls, anything like that. Nobody was arrested or anything like that. All righty.
All right, well, thank you.
All right, no problem. Good luck.
Okay,
See ya.
thank you, bye-bye.
Were you in your car when you called the police station and the hospitals looking for John?
Yes, it was.
Do you know at that point whether anybody else had called the police station?
No, I don't know.
Do you know at that point if anybody else had called any hospitals?
I don't know.
How long did you wait in your driveway?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Maybe like 7 minutes, 8 minutes.
What were the conditions like out that morning?
It was bad. It was in the middle of a blizzard.
When you were outside in your car in the driveway waiting, describe the lighting conditions for us.
It was still dark out. It was 5 o'clock in the morning and it was snowing. So it was not great.
How was the visibility?
Not great. It was coming down really fast at that point.
You said that night when you went to bed, the snow just started. Had snow accumulated at that point?
No, I don't think so. It was just starting to stick.
I'm sorry, that was the night before, but at this point when you were in the driveway, had the snow accumulated?
Oh, yes.
Do you know how many inches it was?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Enough that the plows are out.
As you were waiting for the defendant, did she arrive at your house?
She did not.
What happened?
Again, I don't know if I called her or she called me, but eventually we connected on the phone and she said, I said, where are you? I'm waiting. And she said, I'm at Jen's house. And I said, Jen, who? And she said, McCabe, she's going to drive my car. And I said, okay, well, listen, they don't want cars on the road because it's so bad. I'm already in my car. I'll come there to Jen's house, stay there, and we'll follow each other and we'll go back and drop your car off. Did you look in the house for John? Could he just be in the house, passed out somewhere? And she said, no, she hadn't looked in the house. So I said, okay, now I'm going to come to Jen's. We're going to take the car home, drop it off. We'll check around the house. And then I don't know what the next step at this point was. I just wanted to check the house.
At the time you directed that you were going to meet at Jen McCabe's house and then drive to John's house, was there any suggestion by the defendant where she wanted to go?
I didn't know where Jen's house was. I knew the street. I had dropped Kaylee off or picked her up a few times. So I said, stay on the phone with me. So I don't know which house it is. And so when I got there, I pulled in the driveway and there was some conversation about.
Can I back you up and just ask you a little bit about the drive there? I don't
Yep.
mean to interrupt. When you left your house, you talked a little bit about the weather conditions. How long did it take you to get from your home to Jen McCabe's?
Oh, it's quick. Probably 4 minutes.
What was the driving like?
It was not good driving. That's why I didn't want two cars on the road.
Did you have any difficulty driving through that storm?
No, I mean, it was treacherous, but I was in four-wheel drive. I have an SUV.
You mentioned you didn't know exactly where Jen McCabe lived. Had you been there to drop off John's niece before?
Yes, but I didn't know which house it was because when I picked her up before, she was either getting out of the car at the driveway or waiting at the end of the driveway. So I didn't know which house it was.
I think I interrupted you, but were you telling us that as you drove to Jen McCabe's house, you were on a Bluetooth, on an open conversation with her to help with directions?
Yes, Jen and Karen were in Karen's car and I was on the phone essentially with both of them.
Do you know what type of vehicle the defendant was driving at that time?
A Lexus SUV.
As you drove over to Jen McCabe's home and you had some guidance finding it, did you hear any conversations in that open line with, or even any statements by the defendant?
I remember when I pulled in behind her car in Jen's driveway. And at some point Karen said, my taillight. And I looked and Jen she must've had the brake done because you could see that there was missing taillight.
When you say missing taillight, was it merely cracked?
No, there was a piece missing.
Could you see that as you were parked right behind the defendant's SUV or Lexus?
She must have been applying the brakes because you could see it, but there was a lot of snow.
When you saw that the taillight had a missing piece, did you say anything?
No,
Did you think anything of it?
no.
How long were you parked behind the defendant's Lexus while it was parked in Ms. McCabe's driveway?
Not long. We were just, I pulled in and then we stopped. And then the next plan, at some point in that conversation as well, or maybe on the ride, because now we're heading to John's house to drop a car off. I pulled out of the driveway, Jen pulled out, and I followed behind all the way to John's house. And at some point, Karen said, I left him at Waterfall. And I heard Jen say, no, I saw you pull up in front of my sister's.
Was anything else said about the broken taillight?
No,
You followed Ms. McCabe?
yes,
Where did you go?
to John's house.
Did you arrive?
Yes,
I want to ask you some questions about when you arrived and what you did next.
okay.
When you arrived at Mr. O'Keefe's home, you're in two separate cars. Who pulled into Mr. O'Keefe's driveway first?
Jen pulled Karen's car in first.
So Ms. McCabe was driving the Lexus
Correct,
and the defendant was in the passenger seat?
yes.
After you both pulled in, tell us what happens next.
We went, I wasn't sure if it was, at some point Karen showed us the taillight up close, but I didn't know if it was when we arrived or when we left. But we went into the house to look for John.
When the Lexus was parked by Ms. McCabe in Mr. O'Keefe's driveway, was it facing the street or facing away?
Facing where the basketball hoop is, not facing the street.
I'd like to approach.
Okay.
I'm going to show you a photograph. Do you recognize what's in that photograph?
Yes, that's John's driveway. That's Karen's car on the left and John's car on the right.
Do you recognize both those cars?
Yes, I do.
Do you recognize that photo as a fair depiction of his driveway?
Yes,
Do you recognize it as a fair depiction of the motor vehicles?
yes.
Now, when you went there that night and you pulled in behind Ms. McCabe and the defendant, is there any differences between how that area looked when you pulled in as opposed to that photo?
Well, it was the early hours of the morning, so it was dark out and there was much more snow. And there was
Other than
snow
this-
coming down.
I'm so sorry. You want to finish?
Nope.
Other than the snow and the lighting, is there any other differences?
Nope.
I'd like to introduce this as an exhibit, please.
All right. There's no objection, Mr. Jackson?
No objection. With the court's permission, I'd like to publish.
Okay.
And to help us understand, you see on the left is the house.
Yes,
There's a motor vehicle in the middle of the driveway, but it's the vehicle to the left.
yes.
And whose vehicle is that?
That's Karen's.
Is that where it was parked that night when you went into the house?
Yes,
In the motor vehicle to the right, you recognize that?
that's John's car or SUV.
Thank you, you can take that down. I'm showing you a second photo.
Okay,
Do you recognize that photo?
yes.
What is it?
It's the back of Karen's car.
Does it look like a fair and accurate depiction of her car as it appeared that morning in the early morning hours to you?
Yes,
Do you notice anything that's distinguished in that photo?
the piece that's missing in the taillight.
Which one?
The right passenger rear.
Do you know when, I'm sorry, do you know when this photo was actually taken?
I do not.
Although you don't know when it was taken, is that a similar depiction to your memory of how it appeared that morning at 5
Yes,
or a little after 5?
yes.
I've moved to introduce this exhibit.
Okay.
Objection. The court's permission, I'd like to publish.
Yes.
We could take that down, please. After you arrived at Mr. O'Keefe's house, what was the plan to go inside? What were you looking to do?
To go inside and look and see if he was passed out somewhere. So we went in through the garage and I started looking. I think Jen ran upstairs to Kaylee's bedroom and I just started looking through the living room. Basement door was locked from the inside, so I knew he wasn't in the basement. And then I checked the other living room. He has a big house. Then I went to the top of the stairs to check his bedroom.
As you looked around, what was your mood?
What was my mood?
Yes, were you calm?
I mean, I was worried. So we were, at this point, Jen had already established that they went to her sister's.
Sustained.
Okay.
Jen had already.
No, let
Hold
me ask the
on,
question.
Ms.
I'll ask
Roberts.
the question better. My apologies. How many rooms did you look through in John's house?
1, 2, 5 or 6.
Did you see Miss McCabe looking in rooms as well, searching?
She went upstairs when I was looking downstairs.
At some point, as you were looking, did you see the defendant?
Yes,
Was she looking with you?
she was in John's room.
What was she doing?
She was just standing there when I came up to the top of the stairs.
Did she say anything?
No,
Did she do anything?
no,
Was she searching?
I don't know. She was in the room.
What happened next?
At some point, Jen earlier had said,
Well, let's not talk about what was said. Okay. Let's
Well,
just talk about.
the plan
best
at
you
this
can,
point
your-
is
your
to go to
memory of what was
34
done.
Fairview.
Ms. Roberts, I know that I'm just going to ask you to wait for a question
Okay.
because we can only get one person at a time. So next question, Mr. Brennan.
Again, my apologies. And so as you're looking through the house, you don't find John. What happens next?
the plan was to go back to Jen's sister's house.
Who made that plan?
Karen wanted to go back there.
Well, tell us a little bit about that. How did that conversation come up, and share with the jury what was said?
And the car ride to Meadows, Karen said, I left him at Waterfall. And Jen said, no, I saw you pull up in front of my sister's. So then Karen said, we need to go back to your sister's. And I said, no, we're going to go to Meadows and we're going to drop the car and we're going to look there. Then we'll go there if we don't find him.
When you were at the house, Meadows, John O'Keefe's house, and you didn't find him, was there any further conversation about what the next steps would be?
I said, let's go. He's not here. But I didn't know where Jen's sister lived. So we got into the car. Jen was in the passenger seat. I was driving my car. Karen was in the back seat.
Did you
And Jen
begin,
was giving directions.
did you begin your way towards Meadows?
Yes,
And it was Miss McCabe who was giving directions?
yes.
As you began driving to head towards Meadows, in addition to trying to drive, were you doing anything like looking or searching?
Well, yeah, we were looking on both sides of I was looking on both sides of the road in case he was walking home.
Did you see Miss McCabe searching?
Yes, she was looking out as well.
Describe a little detail about what you saw Miss McCabe doing.
She was looking out the window as we were driving. So was I, as I was driving.
And where was the defendant during that time?
She was in the back seat.
Was there any conversation, comments, statements?
Well, she would be in the back seat and then she would be in between Jen and I, in the back seat and then in between Jen and I. She was just very frantic.
Okay. Was she saying anything?
There was conversation on the way there.
Okay. Was she looking as well? Did you see her looking out the windows like you and Jen?
I don't know if she was because she was in the back seat.
As you drove to Meadows, what was the visibility? The same or better or worse?
No, it was poor.
Did you make your way towards Meadows?
I did.
As you finally got to Meadows, was the house on your left side, your side, or on the other side?
Are you talking about Fairview or Meadows?
I'm sorry, Fairview.
Okay. The Fairview house came up on the left-hand side.
Before you got to the house, is there a tree line between that house and the house before it?
Yes. There's a cluster of trees and bushes.
All right, take us back. I want to talk about that morning. As you're driving and approaching Fairview, tell us what you hear, what you see, what's happening.
Jen's giving directions, and it was really bad driving. I was white knuckling because it was getting slippery. Karen wouldn't put on her seatbelt, so because she was in between us again the whole ride, and then sitting back. But she was worried because we weren't finding John.
Were you having words?
Yes.
Tell us.
I said to Jen, where are we heading? And she said, my sister lives on Fairview. And I said, where is that? She said, off of Chapman. I said, oh, okay, near Spring Lane. At some point, Bella's mom came up
Tell me what that means.
I didn't know who it was, but it was one of Kaylee's friend, Bella's mom. Well, the directions, at some point Karen was talking about Bella's mom to Jen, saying she never liked me. I didn't know who this woman was that they were talking about, but apparently Bella's mom lived near where Jen's sister lived on Fairview.
Did you learn any more about the relevance of Bella's mom?
No. Oh, well, I think John had dated her.
I'm going to allow it.
So as you approached Fairview, tell us what happens.
As we approached Fairview at the house, you mean the house or the street?
Yes, yes, the house.
The house. Jen said, my sister's house is right up here. And I said, okay. And as we approached the house, Karen from the back seat is now screaming, there he is, let me the F out of this car. And she's out kicking the back door to get out.
When you heard the defendant scream, there he is, and started kicking the car door, did you see anything?
I did not.
Did you see anybody?
I did not.
Did you look?
I looked.
Was there anything that impeded your ability to see far?
No, it was just snow.
How far could you see when she was yelling, there he is?
How far could I see?
Yes.
I mean, the visibility wasn't great.
Okay. Was she pointing or giving any direction?
No, she just said, there he is.
Okay. What happens next?
And then I unlocked the car. I looked over, I didn't see anything. And I unlocked it so she could get out of the back seat. I looked at Jen and I said, she's crazy. And then I turned around and watched, and she ran over to a mound of snow.
When she started running, before she got anywhere, did you see anything at that point?
I did not.
Were you looking?
I was looking. She said, there he is. So I'm looking around to see where he is.
And you could see nothing?
I did not.
Did you see her run around or directly?
She ran right over to the mound of snow.
Could you tell what the mound of snow was from the car?
Once she got to it, yes, it was. Once she got to it, you could tell it was a mound of snow that was the length of a body.
All right, I'm going to stop you there, Mr. Brennan. I need to see counsel at sidebar for just a minute, please. Regarding.
No, I do believe this will be about scheduling and how long they're going to go. They don't normally go very long in the day here. Well, this testimony here really does paint a picture. I'm sure the defense is worried about. It does pretty much lay out that perhaps Karen knew where to look. Karen's actions at the time. There's more than one witness that can attest to how frantic she was and what she
We're
said.
going to have you come back tomorrow.
Okay.
Jurors, we're going to break for today, so we're going to send you home. The same 3 cautions that I'll tell you every single day. Please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation in this case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case, please disregard it, let us know. Please be extra careful with your social media. Okay? We'll see you tomorrow morning. Thank you.
Court, all rise, please. Jurors, hold your books, put them on your seats.
And that'll be that. And there we go. That's court for the day. We'll be back tomorrow morning, and they will start with additional testimony from Kerry Roberts. It's been a interesting day. A lot of fireworks. I did note some of the contrasts in the styles. It's going to be an interesting. Hold on, they're coming back. I think the judge has something to say. Let's just wait and see. I don't really like if the sound comes up, I'll stop.
To enforce compliant with the court's April 16th ARCCA discovery order and the motion to continue. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Chrissy, I didn't mean to do that.
Okay, so I did hear, I don't know if it's going to come up in the clip. I'm going to leave this up for a minute. Okay, it appears they are coming back in for some discussion. So buckle up. I heard this one's a little contentious also. But we shall see. I haven't seen it yet with my own eyes. We'll be starting shortly.
Please be seated, court is in session.
All right, so we'll have a quick hearing on paper now 682 and 680. First, Commonwealth's motion to enforce compliance with the court's April 16th, 2025 ARCCA discovery order. Mr. Brennan, you said you could be brief on both of these, so I'll hear you.
Your Honor, I'll get right to the point. On the motion for compliance, our position is that the defense did not comply with your order. This has been an ongoing issue which relates directly to the credibility of potential ARCCA witnesses. This is information based on the history and representations made in this case that we're entitled to. I did note before these were produced that we have watched video footage from unaired video from the documentary. We clearly knew that there were text messages and correspondence beyond what was represented to the court. It is not a surprise that I did receive these lists of text messages and calls after I made those comments. However, there is no text message content. There is 99 texts to Mr. Wolf, 6 texts to Mr. Rentschler. That does not reconcile with the past positions and representations of the defense to this court and to the Commonwealth. In addition, there are a number of phone calls. And those phone calls, again, I would suggest do not reconcile with the past representations. We have 52 minutes of phone calls on 5 calls with the ARCCA main line, 133 minutes, 20 calls with Dr. Wolf, 57 minutes, 23 calls with Dr. Rentschler. I find it difficult to accept that these were all for scheduling purposes. We also had your Honor's order, not just for the communications, which are not a complete or a fair production, but there was a order by the court to provide all correspondence, text messages, emails, not just with Attorney Jackson, but with the entire team, including the defendant, Karen Reed, and we have received nothing. This is important because if we look at the first half of ARCCA's potential testimony, which is limited to their prior report, we cannot fairly and effectively cross-examine the witnesses until we have the information we're entitled, and that's why I've also asked and suggested that ARCCA should be ordered and required to provide that evidence as well, so that we can see what is there. It is concerning that there are this many texts, this many phone calls, and the fact that this is totally in contrast to what was represented in the past. So before there's even a thought of ARCCA testifying, I think we're entitled to the full discovery that we asked for, the full discovery that the court has ordered. I don't see anything to do with billing or anything else beyond these text message and phone call logs. I want whatever content is available. I think it's relevant material. It's pursuant to your order, and this is woefully incomplete. Should I dive into the second motion?
Yes.
So I can move quickly. The second motion, part of it is moot in some respects. I won't go through the tortured history of discovery. We've gone through it too many times. We don't have time for it. But inevitably, it is clear that we have played by the rules, met our discovery obligations, and as we stand here now, the defense is proposing new opinions, new testing, and they don't even have the parts of that testing yet. This is 2 weeks into trial after we picked a jury. This is at the time of the opening. It is ambush. It is unfair, and we have no ability at this point to reconcile or deal with new opinions and new information. Importantly, the defense's position is they may or may not have a report by May 1st. Our expert will be testifying somewhere at the beginning or middle of May. He is away. He is not available. And so anything we receive at the beginning of May or end of April, we'll have no opportunity to look at, vet, test, reconcile, or even engage in our own testing. This was my concern all the way back in November. I'm not Nostradamus, but this obviously was something that worried me that actually occurred. And so at this point, it would be fundamentally unfair for the defense to get a benefit for failing to comply with discovery orders by waiting until February to seek permission with ARCCA. They could have called any expert, asked for any expert they wanted. They didn't. They chose this method, and this is the consequence of it. And at some point, the defense has to bear the burden of their decisions. We will not have the ability to rush through, have Dr. Brentula come in days before his testimony, try to reconcile, be inadequate. I've had a brief correspondence with him. It's simply impossible. That's why we suggested, although we certainly didn't want to move the trial date, that was the only remedy if the court was going to allow any new opinions, evidence. I say to the court that they should not be allowed to offer absolutely anything new, not only because they missed the discovery deadline, that's technical, but the reality is we're all trial lawyers. We've all tried a lot of cases. It would be a disadvantage, fundamentally unfair, and because of their own choosing. And so anything new, we will not be able to reconcile. We would not be able to proceed with our expert in a fair manner. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Alessi, is this you? I'm going to ask you to be as brief as you can be, please.
Your Honor, I understand your request to be as brief as possible, but this is the first opportunity the defense has had to respond to almost every allegation that's been made. We haven't had an opportunity, so I certainly respect the court and what the court's request is, but it is going to take a bit of time to put facts out. And I want to separate two categories that the Commonwealth has conflated. The Commonwealth has conflated the issue of what text messages exist, which text messages don't exist, what's been turned over pursuant to orders. And I would like that to be clear to the court factually, because the Commonwealth has misstated just now 3 times the facts.
So I asked this morning, there were 100 or so texts referenced in the exhibit, whatever was presented by you folks. I asked if Mr. Jackson, if he provided them, because my order was clear, they were to be provided. And he said no. And I asked you at sidebar whether they were deleted. And you said yes, in due course. I have no idea what that means, Mr. Alessi. Why don't you explain that?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to explain it. Here's what it means. Like anybody's phone, those text messages are 2 years old. They don't exist.
So can you also tell me, aren't the ABA guidelines the council is supposed to keep everything in a case for 5 or 7 years?
I do not believe that is the ABA rule with regard to experts. I'm unaware of that.
In regard to your client, and this was in regard to your client's case, right?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I didn't hear you.
Records kept regard to your client's case, which these are experts that were, I mean, there's 100 text messages leading up to trial when I was told that by you that there was a pause email, and then all of a sudden out of the blue a bill appeared in July. This shows that's not true, Mr. Alessi.
Your Honor, that was a different question that Your Honor asked me back then. That was about emails. That was not about text messages.
Have emails been provided?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
All emails have been provided. And that is why we are in compliance with all orders. And I will say also with regard to text messages, we have provided, pursuant to every order, every single text message that exists. Mr. Brennan just said, I believe there has to be more there. There's not more there, and I don't believe there can be an order of preclusion based upon the speculation of opposing counsel that there must be more. We affirmatively created a document, Your Honor, to be more transparent than the records, where we summarize all of the communications. Yes, we don't have the text of the text messages, but we were completely forthright and set forth every text that was made. Plus, we turned over from Ms. Little, the only other person on the defense team who communicated with ARCCA, We turned over her texts and the texts of her text messages. There is nothing else in existence to provide. And importantly, the defense was under no order to preserve the text of text messages. And we have never received, as part of discovery in this case from the Commonwealth, any communications between the Commonwealth and its several experts. That has not been what has occurred in this case. But of course, once Your Honor on Friday issued that order to provide everything, we provided everything that we had. The bottom line is, Your Honor, we've turned over absolutely everything we have. And in addition to that, we created a document so that it would be easier. We're the one who showed all of these text messages from Mr. Jackson historically. We created that document. There's no basis for a discovery violation. There's no basis for an order violation. We are in full compliance. So that's the prong one, Your Honor. Prong one is what Mr. Brennan has alleged is incorrect because we turned over, and we did it recently and consistently. We've turned over all emails and Ms. Little's text we provided. There are no text messages in 2024, and there's no order that required those to be preserved, and there is no discovery violation because we can't be in violation of not turning over something that doesn't exist.
All right, go to the second.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Motion.
The second part of the motion, Your Honor, is the most maddening for the defense. And this is the timeline that I can go through very, very quickly. And essentially, what the Commonwealth just argued is we will be so prejudiced that if we get the work that ARCCA is underway, working on, that we will be prejudiced because we won't have enough time to address it. Your Honor, the facts show that the timeline for this has been caused by the Commonwealth, not the defense. And I can do it quickly. July 2024, the first trial concludes. November 2024, 4 months later, the Commonwealth decides to retain ARCCA. Their decision to wait 4 months to retain an expert, we're the defense. We defend what the Commonwealth alleges. January 30th, 2025, 2 months after that, and 6 months after the first trial, we get an ARCCA letter report that's barely discernible about what they've done. It's a 1 page and 1/4 of conclusions and opinions in outline form. Next, January 31, 2025, we get the initial ARCCA 140 slide presentation. January 31st, February 5th, we get the case file. In February 19th, we finally get the raw images from ARCCA and the scans. That's the first time we get raw images and scans. You can't have an expert work on anything until you even get those raw images and scans. We move, and we have a hearing on March 20, 2025 to preclude Dr. Welcher because the slides are so incoherent and the report is so insubstantial. We can't tell what it is their theory is. So then on March 24th, and at that hearing, the Commonwealth agrees to redact and revise that. So we're already into March 20th. The Commonwealth agrees to redact and revise. Your Honor put the defense on a short leash. We accepted it. And by March 24, we received the PowerPoint that was supposed of the ARCCA that was supposed to have two things happen. It was supposed to be redacted, and there were certain things that were supposed to be changed. What did we get on March 24th? It wasn't redacted, and there were 3 substantive changes to it. The Commonwealth has said twice, including today, there were no substantive changes. There's 3 of them, and to the extent Your Honor wants to hear, I can detail exactly what those changes
So
were.
why don't you highlight them very quickly, because I
I
need
will,
to
Your
say
Honor.
something.
I can do it quickly. Thank you for the opportunity. First one, slide 36, they changed the image of 34 Fairview. No small change. 102, they changed the conclusion regarding the time that the tail light was broken. No small change. 123, they changed the image of 34 Fairview. No small change. So we ended up getting those changes, and I want to be clear on the date. That's March 24th. We have a hearing on March 25th. We agreed to provide our response to these revised aperture documents. Here is the key data point. On March 26th, the defense engages ARCCA. Just 2 days after we get the revised PowerPoint with 3 substantive changes. And then we started to respond and provide more information. On March 27th, we responded to the Commonwealth's revised PowerPoint and the Welch report. And then the last 2 items, we renewed our request to preclude Dr. Welcher on Delbert Lanigan grounds. April 1st, and this is another key date, the court decision allowed Dr. Welcher to testify, but also allowed the defense to re-raise objections at trial when Dr. Welcher testified. What does that timeline show? That timeline shows that the Commonwealth took 6 months from the last trial, 6 months, and the defense took merely 2 days after they got the final report of aperture to retain ARCCA. Last point I want to make, Your Honor, is the argument of the Commonwealth that we strategically waited to retain ARCCA. Nothing could be further from the truth. As the court knows, and has been the case with this unorthodox situation, ARCCA was retained by the U.S. government. They worked pursuant to the U.S. government, and we had to get the permission of the U.S. government to retain ARCCA. We moved expeditiously to do that. We got the permission from the government, and as soon as we got the permission from the government, and as soon as we got the final version of aperture documents, including scans, we put ARCCA on it. It has only been since March 24th, not even a month, have we had finally the information from aperture, which is still inadequate. Our experts still say, with regard to what aperture did, in some instances, they can't even figure it out because the information is so inadequate. Nonetheless, because of all the considerations we're aware of, we had ARCCA proceed forthwith with post haste. And they are working post haste. But, Your Honor, we are the defense. That's where I started. We had to understand as best we could what aperture did. In conclusion, 2 points. No violation whatsoever on text messages, emails, court orders. All complete, robust compliance. And with regard to the allegation that there was something said, that there's some surprise that there were so many text messages, on June 10th, 2024, and I've got the transcript albeit on an electronic device, right in front of me. I just got to get the passcode. Mr. Jackson read a text message right live that he had with ARCCA. He read it, and here's what it said. The court, okay. Mr. Lally, so her issue is that she is available this week, but not next week. So I really need to get her in on Friday. Mr. Jackson.
Hold on. The court reporter can't hear you. She asked you to stop.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. Am I going too fast? Yes. Thank you. All righty.
Go ahead.
Thank you. My apologies. So, Mr. Lally, so her issue is that she is available this week, but not next week, so I really need to get her in on Friday. Mr. Jackson, Dr. Wolf just texted me and said, I presumed you were in court. Give me a call when you're available. The court reporter, I'm getting an interference. Mr. Jackson, I'm so sorry. The court reporter, that's okay. We have been completely transparent that there were text messages as opposed to emails, text messages about scheduling, about other administrative matters. Mr. Brennan is completely free on cross-examination of ARCCA to address every one of his speculations, every one of his suspicions, every one of the ghosts that have been created on this topic. He can address them. If he thinks that we're wrong, we're misstating, he's got the opportunity to speak to ARCCA and ask those questions. Your Honor, it is improvident to, based upon speculation, preclude the defense from putting in a defense.
I'm not making a conclusion today regarding precluding the defense.
Okay, all right. What's
so,
next?
So I need you to wrap it up because there's something I want to say.
Certainly, Your Honor. I'm going to wrap it up in 10 seconds. There are no violations of any discovery order, no violations of this court's order. And with regard to the retaining of ARCCA, because we're the defense, we acted expeditiously in response to the information we're getting. And this can be tested with ARCCA, the statement I'm going to make. To this date, ARCCA still has trouble understanding what it is that Aperture did and didn't do, which was the reason for my Dalbert Lanigan motion, but we proceeded nonetheless. Happy to entertain responses to any questions.
All right. No, thank you. All right. So as you all know, I previously wanted you to have a seat, Mr. Alessi.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I previously found and believe Mr. Alessi, when he was talking about the rules of professional conduct, did say, I agree, a violation of Rule 14, but not regarding the rules of conduct. At a prior hearing, I found a violation of the defense's reciprocal discovery obligations. It was clear to me, and I found that it was deliberate. This appears to me, contrary to what you've argued, Mr. Alessi, that this is another violation of my order and of the reciprocal discovery violations. We need to figure all of this out before you're allowed to call these witnesses. So I'm going to have a voir dire hearing this Friday. I know we planned on having you. I need the ARCCA witnesses here Friday morning. So we need a voir dire, if you intend to call them, a voir dire on all of this. And I will be sending an order for production of records. I just need to amend it for ARCCA to bring all these items with them. So Friday will be for ARCCA for a voir dire hearing in the morning. So we'll see you tomorrow for trial, Friday morning for this.
May I inquire briefly for scheduling purposes?
Yes.
In light of the hearing on Friday, will it still be half a day, or are we expected to call witnesses on Friday?
No, it will be, if we could do, Mr. Alessi, how long do you think this voir dire might take?
I don't have an answer for you, Your Honor, right now, because I got to talk to ARCCA and I've got to understand what they have and what they don't have. So I think, in fairness, I think it could take some time.
All right. So no witnesses for Friday, and I think we'll give the jury the day.
And will it be a full day on Thursday?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes. All right. So we'll see you then. I will issue an order, hopefully before the close of business today. Jimmy, can you stay and get this out today?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, well, there we have it. Wow. Robert Alessi was passionate. He was booming. Hank Brennan is like, well, I thought they might, and yes, they did. And I got to say, Judge Cannone, she's had it with all of the shenanigans in regards to these ARCCA witnesses. And I hope that on Friday, when we have this hearing, everything will get straightened out. Well, we'll have to wait till then to see. In the meantime, see you all tomorrow morning for a full day of trial coverage for trial day 2, April 23rd in Massachusetts, in the courtroom of Judge Beverly Cannone for Massachusetts versus Kerry Reed. Good night.